So let me go ahead and bring up my panelists. So joining me today, we have Nana Yaw Essuman, an accomplished industry senior leader with extensive experience in data engineering, big data management, media, product management, analytics, business intelligence, data governance, and digital technology with deep cross-functional experience, currently pioneering in a new role, an innovative role at Condé Nast with global data engineering responsibilities, with previous leadership and technical roles at major companies like Comcast Cable, Universal Pictures, Fandango, NBC Universal, CSX Technology, and Siemens AG, and proven success in building and retaining teams, scaling platforms and products, operating models, and globalizing teams at the enterprise level. So everybody give a round of applause for Nana to join us today. Also joining us today, we have Edward Acuna, Director of Social Revenue and Sponsorships at MLB. And then last but not least, we have Xaimara Coss, otherwise known as Zai, Director of Consumer Insights, Consumer Products and Retail Marketing at the NFL. Xaimara Coss, she's an experienced licensing and sports marketing professional with a proven track record of driving revenue, increasing brand awareness, and working cross-functionally to execute overall business objectives. Zai currently serves as the Director of Consumer Products at the NFL, where she is responsible for the apparel and headwear licensing business, league collaborations, and third-party retail marketing. Prior to joining the NFL, Xaimara spent 10 years at the MBA, so where I'm at currently on the licensing team, and she also started her career as a finance analyst for MLB right out of college, so she's been around the big three. Xaimara also graduated from the University of Connecticut with a BS and MS degree in sports management. So welcome our panelists today, friends. All right. So let's go ahead and kick things off. I'm going to start us off with an icebreaker. So what was your favorite sports moment of the last year? Zai, let's go ahead and start with you.
Hi, everyone. Pleasure to be here. My favorite sports moment from last year was actually one that happened behind the scenes in my role as Director of Licensing at the NFL. I oversee league collaborations and special merchandise projects. One of the most exciting parts of my job is working with the Super Bowl halftime show artists to create merchandise collections that celebrate and commemorate their performances. And over the years, I've had the opportunity to work with incredible artists and their teams, including Rihanna, Usher, Kendrick Lamar. But this year was especially meaningful because the halftime performer was Bad Bunny. And as someone that originated from Puerto Rico, being part of that project felt personal. Spent months working closely with the team, often around the clock and even through the holidays to bring the collection to life. Bad Bunny was incredibly involved every step of the way and detail oriented. So there were definitely challenges there, but seeing his vision become a reality made every late night worth it. Then when the performance finally happened, I saw the fans connecting with the collection that we created. It felt like I was part of something much bigger than merchandise. It was a moment that celebrated culture, music, and representation as one of the biggest stages in the world. So it's an experience that I'll carry with me forever and well worth it. It was really special for me.
Nice. I love that. Ed, I'm going to kick it over to you.
All right. So I usually like to make these a lot more interactive. So this is a different setup, but lovely to be here. Happy to connect with you all. It's going to be hard to top Bad Bunny for sure. So that was the cheat code there. I see you. But no, for me, I think last year the top sports moment was here at baseball. We basically turned a NASCAR track in Bristol, Tennessee into a baseball field. It took months and months to do, a lot of logistics, but we essentially were able to successfully convert a NASCAR current active track into a baseball field, and we hosted the first baseball game ever on a NASCAR track between the Braves and the Reds. So it was really cool bringing that whole project to life. Really cool to see it in mainstream media as something that was like a jaw-dropping feat. And then lastly, working with our sponsors and our brand partners on how they activated and showed up in a way that was organic and natural to that environment was really, really fun to be a part of and see come to fruition. So no Bad Bunny there, but it was really fun.
Nice. And at least you had a good time. We love it. Nana, last but not least, let's kick it over to you.
Yeah. First of all, thank you for having me, and it's a pleasure being here with you all today. I am going to cheat a bit and not go into last year, but actually just go a month ago. I think for me, my favorite moment in sports has been actually being at Game One of the Knicks and Cavs final and being in the arena. And just actually seeing the Knicks come back from the loss that they were at in the Game One, and I think being in that atmosphere and seeing everything that happened right there and there, I think was a phenomenal moment to relate in life in general. That if you keep persevering and keep pushing, you can always make it back to the top, and also make it to the top regardless. So that to me was my favorite moment, and I think it's a lesson that many of us can take with us as well.
Nice. I love it. And I, too, as a big Knicks fan, love to see them win after 53 years. Was definitely ready for them to bring that championship home. So, any New Yorkers in the audience tonight, we up right now. All right, friends. So, let's go ahead and kick this panel into full gear. So, my first question for any of you to answer: when you think about the modern game, what's changed most in how sports organizations build their businesses today, and whether through media, products, partnerships, or even through fan engagement?
Does someone want to go first, or I can kick it off? Yeah, so I think we're in a really special place where special but also really tricky, right? And I think what it comes down to as the sports industry shifts is how are you're going to hear me say this a lot, but like how are we creating a third space, right? For everyday individuals, it's not enough for you got to be a hard follower of a team or a player or a league, right? It's kind of like how do you tap into new audiences and how do you introduce them to your game, your teams, and your players in a way that most resonates with them, right? Because in the past, it was just enough for your friends or family to be sports fans of a said team or a player, and you naturally just follow suit. It's not like that anymore with social, with so many different things vying for our attention. It's more so of how do we as a league reach you, an everyday individual, along with our fans, in a way that's unique, engaging, and essentially creating a third space for you to spend your time in. And I think that's where you're going to see people kind of shift into how they follow sports, how they engage with their favorite teams, players, leagues. But again, with that, it's really tricky because you're naturally navigating how you create out of house experiences, how do you activate on site at different games and events in really unique ways, and then how you're touching your consumers every day via digital assets, right? Whether it's social.com, the app, it's just you got to be in front of your consumer and your fan in so many different ways, but in a way that truly talks to who they are and why they should be giving you their attention.
100%. You have to plug in where they are in the current moment within their life and fit their routine and their lifestyle. Nana, do you want to chime
Yeah.
in? I'd love to hear from your perspective being at FanDuel.
Yeah, I think at FanDuel, from a sports betting platform standpoint, it's always critical to think about the customer, and from our business lens as well. I think to what Ed was saying, there's so many distribution channels now in terms of how people are consuming sports, and as a business, it's important to think about what those distribution channels are because your fans are there, and as a business, you need to be there to reach those fans at the right time but also make sure that they feel very engaged in the content or the sport that they're actually related to. So from a fan perspective, it's always important for us to think about the core of the customer. What does the customer actually want at that moment, and how do we make sure we are reaching them and making sure they're experiencing it in the right way?
Absolutely. Zai, you want to round us out?
Sure. I think I'm going to align with what Nana and Edward said. I think the biggest change in sports organizations is really we're not just competing for what's going on the field, but competing for attention 365 days a year. And success years ago was driven by game day attendance, broadcast viewership. Today, fans have endless entertainment options at their fingertips. So sports organizations like us, so we have to think about it more broadly, and how do we engage with consumers 365 days a year and not just on game day. So from my perspective in consumer products and licensing, we've also seen a shift from simply just selling merch to creating products that sell stories and connect with culture. So it's more 365 than just, hey, what's going on the field. We want to keep connecting with fans all year round.
Absolutely. I love that. And you know what? If you could elaborate a little bit more about that perspective. So from a consumer products retail marketing perspective, how does merchandise storytelling and cultural relevance really help grow fandom beyond that game experience?
Obviously, one of our biggest goals is as a league, is to continue growing fandom and reaching new audiences. How do we do that? We already have incredibly passionate core fan bases across I think every league does. The fans who probably wear their jerseys every Sunday, know every player on the roster, and never miss a game. Those fans are the foundation of our business and will always be important to us. But growth happens when we find ways to connect with people who may not see themselves as football fans, right? So that's where merchandise, storytelling, cultural relevance become powerful tools. In my role, I'm very intentional about the brands, artists, and collaborations I pursue. When evaluating a potential partnership, I'm not just asking like, will our fans, would our existing fans like this? I'm asking, who are we not reaching today? Is it Gen Z? Is it Latino consumers? Is it young women? Is it kids who may be discovering sports through fashion, gaming, or social media rather than through traditional broadcasts? I look for partners that already have credibility and influence within those communities. We work together, we create authentic products, and tell stories that resonate with those audience. I'm actually here in Paris doing that just now. We have a game for the first time ever in Paris, and so I'm meeting with brands locally. It's not just making phone calls from the States. It's just being in person and meeting with these brands to tell an authentic story and bring a collaboration to life. So that's how we're doing it beyond the game.
Nice. And thank you so much for taking the time to speak to us from Paris, knowing that time zone difference right now. We really appreciate you joining us here today.
No
Edward,
problem.
I want to pass it over to you. You talked a little bit about social media platforms within your first response, but I really want to understand from you, how has the rise of social platforms changed the way that leagues and brands really think about distribution, and particularly for younger audiences discovering sports through highlights and creators? How does that play into it?
Yeah, so that's a really great question. So, as you can imagine, the social landscape is continuously changing and shifting all day long, right? In the past, for us at baseball, it was enough to basically give information to fans, right? So, here's your stats for the day, here's the players that perform well, here's some top hits and moments from the day. And that was enough to like really get you by and satisfy your audiences. But in the last few years, as we try to rebrand and rebuild baseball for more of a modern game, the way that we approach social is twofold, right? On the one side, it's basically how do we get new audiences to pay attention and fall in love with baseball through more emotional, humorous, cultural touch points and moments, right? Because when people are on social, you're going to social for entertainment primarily, right? You are going to, if something is being served to you, the way that I get you to interact with it, engage with it, or just be interested in it is to make sure that it is personalized and customized to natural audience behaviors. And so we, in the last few years, really have taken that approach to tapping into new, younger audiences and showcasing baseball as like an everyday sport. It's fun, there's incredible moments, and there's exciting moments. And then on the flip side, we also want to make sure that we're catering to our existing fans and we're giving them content that they'll naturally continue to engage with, share, and continue to grow their fandom, right? And so basically, if you go to our pages across the board, every platform has a unique strategy, a unique feel, and a unique theme. And then on top of that, we're weaving in a lot of cultural moments. So you'll go to our TikTok and our IG, and I don't know if Love Island is hot. There might be some posts that tie Love Island into baseball in a really fun, unique way. And so from that standpoint, we've seen significant growth across both followers across the board and also via engagement and views per post, which is essential in understanding how we're able to sell to brands. Then on the flip side, when it comes to our brand partners and sponsors, as people are shifting away from linear TV, right? People aren't really, they're cutting the cord and they're not sitting in and watching full games on TV, right? So where are they getting their highlights? Where are they really connecting with their favorite sports and teams and athletes? It's on social. And so we have a lot of brand partners that when we're talking to them, they look at our main handles and they're like, there's 60 million followers there. And across the board, you guys are seeing millions of views and hundreds of thousands of engagement per post. How do I get in on that, right? Yes, I have the TV deal. Yes, I have the ballpark deal. Yes, there's other touch points, but like that's a valuable asset. And so, how can I show up there where I'm able to tap into the millions of eyeballs that every post is getting and that level of engagement that every post is getting? And so, from there, it's working really closely with our brand partners on okay, here's our content strategy, here's our best practices, and here's how we create this experience that's tasteful for our viewers, and you have to work within that, right? We don't want to just hit our viewers with logo slaps and as soon as the video opens up there's a huge branded element to it, because naturally you're going to see strong drop-offs, low engagement, and the algorithm picks up on that and serves all of your stuff less and less and less. And so we have to make sure that we're working closely with our brand partners to consult them, to use data on why we're doing the things we do, and then naturally find ways to fit them into that in a way that they're able to get return on investment, they're able to get significant value, but not at the detriment of our performance and the growth of baseball in general.
Nice. I love that. All right, Nana, I do have a question for you. So I'd love to understand a little bit more about how you see data and technology. This is something Edward was just speaking to, but how do you see data and technology shaping more personalized and relevant experiences across sports?
Yeah, I do think it's very interesting to see where technology specifically has taken a shape in sports as a whole. As you think about the industry over the couple of years, and as we've seen technology be that actual amplifier for sports and for media as a whole come to life, the piece that has also come alongside technology has been that data partnership piece, but also the actual data points that fans are either emitting or companies like mine or companies like other companies as well are more in tune to what people want and from a fan experience perspective. So actually think about the ability to provide relevant fan experiences to various customers. I think it's very critical to understand that real time data is playing a very big role, right, in terms of how you're providing, in the case of FanDuel, live odds and in play statistics and being aware of micro events that are happening within an actual game and being able to actually bring that to a fan through a betting platform. And that is an interesting use of data and use of technology to bring the experience to a customer, but also making sure they are also immersed in the experience on a day-to-day basis as they feel engaged to a sport or to a player that they obviously want to follow and they are obviously big fans of. The second piece with the fan experience, which I think is what I call the unsung hero of all of this, is the behind the scenes infrastructure and technology behind the scenes of all of this. Many people who watch sports and watch various games on a day-to-day basis sometimes don't realize there's a bunch of infrastructure and technology behind what actually bring this to life. And you think about all the peak scale of time that people are watching sports, and essentially the final minute of a game could be going on, and the technology is holding up and making sure we are providing that experience to our customers. And I think in those moments is when you realize how much of the intersection there is between data, technology, and also media and the products side coming together to make sure we bring that fan experience to life and ensure that we can reduce the friction for the customers.
I love that. And just to kind of piggyback off of that just a bit, where do you think the industry still has the greatest opportunity to better use data to understand and really serve fans? And I'll also give Zai and Edward a heads up. I may want to pivot this question to them as well, too. But Nan, go ahead and kick us off.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I think the biggest area that the industry still has, in my opinion, is that I think one of the other panelists mentioned this before. There's a whole new set of fan base that is yet to be tapped into, right? In terms of people who are new to a specific sport, or is a casual fan of a specific sport or team or player. I think the industry as a whole needs to not always focus on who is a true super fan, but who are the other people who want to engage with that sport and with that specific team as well. So going beyond using specific metrics like viewership to be the signal of what a fan is, but how do we find different metrics within the industry that helps serve towards what true engagement looks like from a customer's perspective, and making sure we tap into that and ensuring that we can use that as a signal to detect and define who a fan is across the sport.
Absolutely. I feel like Edward mentioned this earlier, but like the fandom ecosystem now has completely changed. A fan is no longer just watching the game on TV. They're no longer just following a player or an athlete on social media. It's a multitude, a combination of all the different things. And now it's trying to figure out like what's the right combination to really hit them where they are at that current moment.
Exactly.
Zai, Edward, I want to pass it over to you if you have any thoughts on how the industry could better be using data to really reach fans.
Yeah, I would say when it comes to specifically my realm with brand partners and sponsors and things of the sort, is that brand partners and brands in general are becoming a lot more savvy in tracking what their dollars spent ultimately mean, right? In the past, it was enough to say 80 million people attend MLB games and you're going to be in front of those 80 million people. And it was like, great, fantastic. Now, every aspect of the deal that they're working through, whether it's showing up on our app, whether it's showing up on social or on TV network or any of the sort, they're asking for key metrics to really speak to that success, right? So if they're coming on for a social deal, they want to understand how many views am I getting? How many engagements am I getting? How long are people spending with that content? How am I showing up there in a way that's really driving brand awareness and top of mindness? And so for us, everything that we do through the pitch phase all the way to the ongoing partnership phase is all driven by metrics and data. Even when it comes to programs that our sponsors are running, right? Like we might pitch them a great idea that we think would do really well. And as they're checking in on how that's playing out, the numbers might tell a different story. And so we need to optimize and pivot and restructure programs using data as our backup, right? I can't go into any meeting or any conversation with a brand partner and make a recommendation without having data to back that up. And so everything that we do here, especially, is driven by metrics and data and being able to prove ROI using numbers. Because we can come to the table with really cool ideas, but if the numbers don't back that up, then our brands and our partners aren't going to go with it. So everything that we do, from decision making to creative to program logistics, everything is really centered around data, and it's just going to continue to go in that direction from our things over here.
100%. I feel like brands are now at that moment where they are increasingly asking us to prove our value, prove the worth of the partnership when we're working with them, to prove that there was a result, there was a halo effect of being partnered with MLB, being partnered with the NFL. So I'd love for you to speak on this a little bit from your perspective, just knowing that you are in Paris right now, you're scoping out brands to work with. The NBA is also no stranger to doing global games within local markets, and just how you kind of make that come to life in terms of just showing the value for a local partner who may not be as familiar with the NFL.
That's so relevant right now because I just met with a couple of local brands and we just went through that same exercise. It's, how does it benefit you? How does it benefit me? Right. So I'm talking to luxury brands and they don't really care about American football. It's just not what they do, but they see a value to partnering with the NFL. We have a really significant platform. They want to reach a new audience just like we do as well. So I think it's a lot of conversations about value exchange. For us, it's really not, from my perspective, where I sit in terms of collaborations, it's not about a revenue driving opportunity. It's more about reaching new consumers. And we do that through a lot of research, market insights. We have an internal data analytics team that pulls information for us when we're looking to when we're entering a new market, or we're looking to enter a new product category. What's trending, what's not trending, what hasn't worked, what is working, where should we take risk, where should we find new partnerships. So agree with both Edward and Anna, data is super important. Is how we drive information and what defines some of our decisions.
Nice. Absolutely. I love that. And you know what? Being here at the NBA, I will 100% say that in the way that we work with partners, brands, it's also part of that authenticity that you were mentioning earlier. It's a way for us to expand our international fan base by reaching them where they are and partnering with the brands that they're more familiar with seeing in their everyday lives. It's a way to more closely connect to the fans that are within those markets. I do want to get into a few questions that we have submitted from the audience, and this is for any of our panelists, so feel free to jump in. But what's the key metric that really tells you that you've successfully delivered the right value to fans in the right way? At what point does a product stop being a distribution of information and then turn into successfully building a relationship with fans? And this is from Jonay within the audience. So thanks for submitting that question, Jonay.
I can kick this one off. Great question. For us, more and more, the way that the digital ecosystem works and how many things, or much, I can't even talk, how much stuff is being pushed your way on a daily basis, we like to measure success based off of engagement and deeper relationship, right? So like if it's social, the way that we're able to understand how well our content is doing is by the level of engagement we're seeing, right? Because you can have 5 million views on something, but what does that mean, right? And somebody could just saw it for 2 seconds, right? That doesn't mean they really consumed it or understood it. And so for social, our primary objective is to drive engagements across the board, because that shows us the level of connection that we're seeing with our audience across the board of what we're posting. And then on our other assets, such across digital, like our app and our email and different places like that, there's other triggers that show a level of engagement, right? And so we're constantly creating either products, or we're creating a format in which when we're reaching out, connecting with our fans and audiences, it's seamless. The interface is something that they are naturally doing across the board in their user behavior. That way we can bring them into our ecosystem. And so for us, it's not just about touch points, it's about interactive touch points. And so we want to make sure that we're holding a conversation, or we're getting you to like, comment, share, or engage in some way, shape, or form, because ultimately that tells us that we're successfully growing the game and bringing you into our ecosystem in a way that is active, versus, you signed up one time for something and you keep getting the email, but you're not doing anything about it or with it. So for us, it's really that deeper level of engagement.
I want to pass this over to Nana and Xaimara as well. If there are any key metrics that you feel have shown you successfully deliver the right value to fans in the right way.
No, I think I'll piggyback on and echo what both you and Ed have mentioned. And I think just to add on, I think as we look at from a founder perspective, I would say not one metric can always define that, is the one thing to always remember. There are many different levers that move business KPIs and business metrics that a company is looking at from a value standpoint. But Ed hit it on the nail in terms of really making sure someone who is really engaged with your product is one of the key areas that key metrics that you can use to determine if you are delivering value to that customer.
Absolutely. Let's move on to our next question from the audience. So you all spoke about trying to grow the audience of your respective sports and/or platforms. Do you think that it's becoming more difficult with the teams and leagues, games being split between so many different streaming platforms or cable platforms, just knowing that we're kind of in a dual paradigm shift when it comes to how you can watch sports right now?
I'm not in broadcast, but I think for us is it goes back to how do we continue reaching new audiences and how do we continue expanding our reach. But also, it's it's a revenue play as well. Let's call it what it is, right? You want to connect with new partners so that you're just kind of mixing and providing a variety of ways to deliver the game to different audiences. So I think we have to continue doing that. It's just like, not going into the AI conversation, but like AI is super important. You can't just stay behind, and you got to continue following trends in order to stay ahead of the game. So I think it's part of the business. It's part of how the game continues to evolve and how we continue to bring the product to different consumers. It kind of has to be done.
Yeah, to piggyback off of that, I love the honesty. It's a rev play. At the end of the day, we're capitalists and we got that bread. But with that, I think where the value lays in that is challenging our broadcast partners to market and position the game in the way that's really exciting. Like, so for us here at MLB, we cut a deal for the first time with Netflix, right? So Netflix did opening night. Opening night was never a thing. It was just opening day. And they're also going to do the home run derby. And those are two new events that Netflix is getting. And so they went all out with us and like, okay, we're going to invest a ton in marketing both of these events, and we're going to showcase them in unique ways. We're going to activate in Midtown Manhattan. We're going to activate in San Francisco. We're going to do pop-ups. We're going to use our IP. So Netflix was using their IP to market and push a lot of our games and events that they're doing. And so I think they're a great example of, if we're going to cut these deals across different broadcast partners, how can we make them exciting and enticing for fans to want to tune in and build hype around them? And so I think that is where you're going to see a lot of success, is when we're able to create reasons why fans should tune in and go get a Netflix subscription or an Amazon subscription for that package of games. And I think the NBA, I think you guys did a really great job of it this year with the whole NBC push, the talent you guys brought in. I mean, you guys got freaking Michael Jordan. I don't know how you top that. That man doesn't do anything for anyone. So I think that was a great example of you guys tapping into, all right, if we're going to bring basketball back to NBC, how do we do it in a way that is an actual movement and interesting? And it worked. Like, people were really aware of the NBC packages and games. You guys had Mello. I'm not going to keep talking, but yeah, you guys did a great job of doing that. So that's my take on that.
Much appreciated, Edward. And I must say, we set ourselves up for an interesting year next year. Only thing we can hope for is that the Knicks run it back so that our
right.
the same.
Yep.
All right, we do have a few career-focused questions. I do want to keep in mind we are speaking to students today. So our first question here is, how did you all know that this was the career path that you wanted to go in? And any five, feel free to jump in.
I can start. I was a sports junkie growing up. My family's a sports family. I grew up in Brooklyn, New York. We're Knicks, Yankees, and we're Knicks, Yankees, and Giants fans. Sorry, Mets, but go Yankees. And, I knew growing up that I really wanted to work in sports. I played volleyball growing up as well. So I knew that that's where I wanted to study. So as I was looking for colleges, I was looking to study sport management and, researching what schools offered it. Luckily, I played volleyball and I was recruited to the University of Connecticut, and they also offered one of the best sports management programs. So it kind of just worked out for me. And that's it. I leaned into sports and, studied everything I could about it. And then went back, doubled up, got my master's in it as well, in sports management. And it just worked out that, I was able to work at baseball right out of college. So that was my trajectory. But I know not everybody is that way. That's not the path for everybody and the journey, but that's a little bit about my background in sports.
Yeah, and I can follow on. I think for me, I work at a sports betting company, but it's not. I have not been in the sports industry for a very long time. My career actually started in a healthcare company. So I'm obviously traditionally a software engineer, and I've sort of risen through the ranks and a data executive at the moment. However, I would say that from a data and a technology perspective and an engineering perspective, whatever you learn in terms of the skill sets that you have, all converge regardless of the industry that you're in. So for whoever asks the question and whoever's in the audience, I think it's important to remember that as you create your toolkit and the skill sets that you have as a person, don't always look at, oh, I can only apply this in this specific industry, because I don't think that that's the case. You can always take that and go somewhere else and be someone somewhere else, using the skills that you've learned, and those skills will always come in handy. And one advice I always got early on in my career was follow the T shape, right? Follow one deep path that you can go into, but also think about how to get more breadth across more than one area, because it will take you far in terms of being able to translate that to many industries.
I love that. I've never heard of that phrase before, but now I'm going to put that in my back pocket. That's a good one. Edward, you want to round us out?
Yeah, so not all of us are as lucky as Sai to hit the trifecta right out the gate, which shout out to you, that's awesome. But I think back to Nana's point, I think it's really about developing skill sets and seeing where doors open and where that can take you. Coming out of college, I've always been a sports head, love sports, tried to apply for a bunch of cool jobs with big companies, big titles, and just didn't land anything. And so I had to go the marketing agency route. And with the marketing agency route, you learn a ton of skills, right? Because you're working across so many different accounts, so many types of businesses, and you're developing a lot of skills across a lot of different mediums. And so with that, naturally, I was lucky that my marketing agency was doing a lot of work for clients in the sports world across a lot of big leagues. And so I got to work on a ton of different types of workflows for different leagues, whether it's partnerships, influencer, out-of-house marketing, reporting, strategy, the whole nine. And I did that for several years, and I developed a lot of skill sets coming out of that. And then from there, I was like, okay, now having had experience with leagues and working for them, I want to go in-house and work for a league and bring a lot of those skill sets in-house and be able to use that in a way that brings value. And so from there, I was able to, after several years, a door opened to come to Major League Baseball. And again, to what Nana was mentioning, a lot of the skill sets that I was doing across the board allowed me to really enhance my role here and bring a lot of value here. And so you'd be surprised if, as long as you put in the work and develop your skill sets and come somewhere with value, the doors that are going to ultimately open for you are going to be incredible. And you're going to look back and say, okay, like that looked like a bad situation, but ultimately set me up for this. And from there, you kind of just keep going.
Absolutely. I love that. And honestly, Edward, that's a great plug for talking about how it doesn't necessarily have to be a team or the league that you first get a job at within sports. There are so many adjacent industries that are now branching out into sports specifically. So whether that's a marketing agency, whether that's a clothing brand that now has decided that sports marketing partnerships are where they want to focus. There are so many other little things that are still kind of like branching into the sports industry space because sports is so popping, sports is expanding so much. So don't be afraid to look into those niche areas as well too.
Yeah, and just to chime in there, Carla, that's actually a great point. So, word of advice to everybody on this is all leagues I can speak to work with a bunch of agencies, whether that's talent agencies, influencer agencies, marketing agencies, logistic agencies, the list goes on, and a ton of people that actually land full-time jobs at Major League Baseball are people that we work with on the agency side that after working with them we thought would be a great fit for us. And so it's just a natural kind of progression. So don't count out agencies in any regard. We work with a ton of them. So it's a really great way to build connections and open up doors to bigger positions within leagues in that way.
Absolutely. I love that. All right, panelists. Well, we've got about 3 minutes left. So where I want us to end out is I'd love for you all to give your last line or words of wisdom for these students that are on the call today. All of these students want to branch out into sports potentially at some point in time. Would love to hear what gems you have to drop for them.
I'll start. I think to round out pretty much what Ed and Nana said is one of the misconceptions that students have is they need to know everything about sports to work in the sports industry. That's not true. The reality, sports organizations, we need marketers, sales professionals, finance experts, lawyers, data analysts. There's so many different avenues and paths to get you to work in sports, but really focus on the skill set. And what stands out more is adaptability, stay curious, relationship building. The industry moves quickly, consumer behavior changes constantly, and the people that succeed are the ones who are willing to learn, ask the questions, embrace the change. Sports may be the industry, but business is the foundation. Focus on developing those business skills, stay curious, and be willing to put yourself out there for it.
Yeah, I would follow on as well and add. I think Ed mentioned this. Don't follow the title, right? I think it's important to remember that I would say follow the curiosity, like whatever is making you curious, whatever wakes you up in the morning, and whatever you feel the passion is, and you want to learn about, follow that curiosity, and I think that would take you far, and keep building those skill sets. I think it would kind of sort of suck for me not to say this, but I think, as we all know, AI is really taking a big change in the entire world, in many ways. So one thing I would leave everyone with is, make sure you find a way to understand how you can leverage AI in whatever skill set you're looking at building, and making sure it's a core component to your growth as well, because it is changing a lot in many industries, not just in sports or in data and technology. So make sure that is the core of however you're thinking about your future.
Yeah, and to close it out, I think Sai and Nana hit it perfectly. Stay curious. Relationships are huge. Really invest in relationships. Always try to create win-win scenarios for anybody or any team you work across. Even if it doesn't benefit you in that given moment, it always comes back around. And then lastly, to Nana's point about AI, yes, understand AI tools and how to adapt them and use them, but also understand the depth of your role or the area of expertise that you want to grow in. Because from my experience, I've had a lot of interns or coordinators that are just using AI, but it's not really their work and they don't understand what they're doing or how they're using it. So I really encourage you to become an expert in your area and implement tools that help you do more and be more productive. But at the end of the day, anything you're ever going to push or any value you're ever going to bring is always going to be tied into a why, understanding the why and explaining the why. AI can't give you that. So make sure you understand the why and what you're building out, and then use anything tool related to really just enhance you getting it through the door and finishing it.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much to our panelists today, Edward Acuna of MLB, Nana Yaw Essuman of FanDuel, and Xaimara Coss of NFL. Thank you so much for your time. So everyone, thank you for joining us. For your next session, please click on the sessions button on the left side of your screen to attend your next assigned session. And everybody have a great day.
Thanks guys.
Thanks for joining.
Thank you.